Why would a child hate a loving parent? This is what my sign said on my journey through the streets of San Francisco and the campus of UC Berkeley. I wanted people to think, how would it be possible to turn a child against a loving parent without true justification? Because this is what happened to me. For 20 years, I was alienated from my dad, and I missed a lot of time with him. So that's why I speak out about this abuse. Join me on this journey as we find out what people in California think about shared parenting and parental alienation. Have you ever heard of parental alienation?
No, I'm very curious what it could be.
So parental alienation is a type of abuse that usually happens during a divorce or custody dispute where one parent is really angry and they manipulate their child to turn against their other loving parent without true justification. Does this make sense that this could happen?
Absolutely. Children could become weaponized, you could say, right? Absolutely, yes.
Exactly. Do you believe that divorced parents should have a presumption of joint custody and equal shared parenting time?
That sounds fair. Certainly a presumption without going further than that is the good places to start from, sure.
I agree. I was actually alienated from my dad when I was 9 years old. This happened to me. And for the next 20 years, I rejected him and never spent the night at his house. Really had a rough relationship. And I learned the truth 2 years ago, so I've been speaking out about this form of abuse.
Great.
Can you think of any negative effects that this type of abuse might have on a child?
It would be horrible for the child if she loses a parent almost from that. And I'm sure it creates all kinds of worries and fears in her. How did this presumably bad parent affect me? So that's also another, it's horrible. It sounds like one of the worst things that could ever happen to me.
It is pretty horrible, and that's why I'm doing this. It's actually very common. It's way more common than people would like to believe, and I think that it's part of a societal epidemic almost. I think a lot of kids who believe they're estranged from a parent are actually alienated from a parent. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Do you think it's important for kids to know that it's wrong for their other parent to talk badly about their other parents with them?
Yes, I think that sounds like a reasonable rule. There's an ancient Jewish law called Lashon Hora, which means the evil tongue. And you're never supposed to say anything negative about anybody without a very, very good reason for it. It's considered kind of like a taboo. You don't say bad things. And I found it in my life to be a wonderful spiritual aid, because when you stop saying bad things, you stop thinking bad things too.
I love that. I might adopt that now.
It's surprising. But then I became a kind of a poor gossip. I don't gossip very well, so that's a problem. But gossiping is maybe kind of a dangerous activity anyway. I don't know, do you think there should be a legal framework around parental alienation, that the judges should be aware of it, or how?
I personally believe that judges are already aware of it, and I think they're turning a blind eye because the divorce and custody family law industry is over a $50 billion industry in the United States.
Wow, that's amazing, yeah.
So people are actually, like the United Nations says that this is pseudoscience, for example. The World Health Organization denies it. There are people who are making an effort to not have the term known, not have people realize it. That's part of the reason why I'm doing all of this. What are your impressions of why people might deny that this can happen? To me, it's very obvious that this can happen.
It sounds like an important legal question that should be addressed, at least looked at, and maybe there should be some presumption, like you said, against being able to do it. Yeah, that sounds like a very good. I don't know what the financial incentives are to stop monitoring this, though. I'm trying to think of that. That's a little more complicated.
So there are certain things in family court that allow people to get away with this more easily. Like false accusations are often part of something that people do, and to get a protective order just to claim that they feel a threat of violence, and that puts an instant colorization onto that targeted parent, and it's hard to get your way back from that in court.
I've heard of that problem, yeah, the protective orders, that's right, yeah.
Yes, so that's exactly what my mom did to my dad, and because of that, she was able to get more child support. She was able to get custody. It's called a silver bullet tactic. Over 30% either make a plan to commit suicide or
go through and commit suicide.
That's really, oh boy, it's something very important. So suicides, if they're at stake, we really have to act on this
right away. It's a very destructive form of abuse, and it's also generational. So my mom was alienated by her mom from her dad, and then she alienated me from my dad. So there have been studies done, and one of these studies by someone named Dr. Amy Baker found that 50% of alienated kids will go on to become alienated from their own kids. Just how a lot of types of abuse and trauma can be passed down generationally. Are there anything that you could think of how I can grow my message faster, how we can inform people about this issue?
Doing a great job. You picked a nice place to do it, and I'm sure you're going to use all kinds of internet websites and whatnot for And so what's the name of your group?
The Anti-Alienation Project. Yes. Would you like a t-shirt?
Sure.
So let me see what sizes we have. Thank you to the National Parents Organization for helping sponsor this campaign.